All right, here we go. It is Tuesday, May 30th, 2023, and from the home studio in Middletown, Delaware, Marshal Manlove from Delaware Sports and My Sports Reports. This being a special interview edition of our show. And shortly, we are going to meet some young men who did something historical here in the state of Delaware. I'm looking forward to talking with them because it was a long time in the making and it's a good group of guys and their coach. I was happy to see them create this little bit of history, and shortly we will meet them. But first, let me do this. Thank one of the sponsors of the show, allaboutsportsu.com. Mr. Tim Wampler is a longtime softball coach and mentor, and he's developed this online training academy for softball players. And if you visit allaboutsportsu.com and decide to subscribe for 1 year, use this flashing promo code and you can take 15% off of a yearly subscription. That is allaboutsportsu.com. Also, please visit jazzercise.com. One of the proprietors there runs a very active Facebook group page for parents of high school athletes. They are kind enough to post up links to the videos that I produce. Visit jazzercise.com because they're running a special here which started on the 29th and runs through June 3rd. What's this special? June 26th. Save 20%. Good deal. And also, if you're in the market to buy or sell a home in Delaware, Maryland, or Pennsylvania, I can help you out there. Visit marshal.kw.com. And also, I do some sports art. Visit mysportscreations.etsy.com. My Sports Creations, all one word. Kind of cool stuff there. And now, hopefully, when I press this next button, my guests will appear. Let me find the button first. My eyes are going bad, man. The button looks smaller and smaller and smaller every time I try to find it. But there they are. 3 of the Vikings from the Cape Henlopen boys volleyball team and their head coach, who I know is close by.
How you doing, Marshall?
That's Tyler Coupe. Goes by Coupe for short. And welcome. And congratulations for winning Delaware's first ever sanctioned boys state volleyball championship. Let me clap for you here. Here. You can hear me. You can't see me. You'll be able to see it when you watch the video. My head's actually here. I'm looking at you now. So we just briefly met the coach as he stuck his head in there. Let's introduce yourselves, going from your right and working that way. Let's start there.
All right. My name's Dylan Henry, one of the 4 captains on the team. I'm here with 2 other captains. I'm a senior, and I play in the middle blocker position for the Vikings.
All right. Good to meet you,
Niko.
Dylan.
I play libero, and I'm one of the captains.
And I talked over when you said your name. Go ahead, repeat your name for me there, Niko.
I'm Niko Panyko, and I play libero.
Okay. And
I'm Stevens. I'm a junior, and I'm also one of the captains, and I'm the main setter.
Well, congratulations. Okay, there we go. So I was saying my internet connection was unstable there for a moment. I think we are okay, though. So, just this year, after many years of trying, a couple decades, Delaware Interscholastic Athletic Association finally sanctioned a state tournament, which meant that we had to have a certain amount of teams for a certain period of time. And the state was very close there for a couple years. And of course, COVID kind of ruined it. But with the hard work of some of the coaches behind the scenes, it finally made this all happen. And Coach, how many teams did the state need to have for how long in order for the state to sanction them?
So 16 is the minimum threshold to receive 11-1 sanctioning. So we received that last year, beginning of the season, and then we were approved for level 2, and then we had to do some more work this spring and a little bit more of a hurry than we anticipated to get us to level 3. But 16 was the minimum, and then we had a huge jump. In 2022, we were at 19 teams statewide, and then this year we finished at about 30 teams. And I would expect to add 2 to 3 more next spring, and then talking with Dave Lee, Dickinson, the goal is kind of add 2 more teams each year for the next 5 to 6 years.
Oh wow! Who are the teams you looking to add next year?
Archmere for sure. They ran a JV team this year, so we'll have them at the varsity status. And then we are trying to get another Sussex County / Henlopen Conference team next year.
Yeah, great. So the Cape Henlopen program, which you started there, is new. And how long has it been in existence now?
So we got school board approval in the winter of 2019 with the intention to start in spring of 2020. Obviously, spring sports were shut down that year. So our first official year was spring of 2021. We had 14 athletes come out for the team. We only ran one team, one varsity squad. And then last year, we jumped to about 30 athletes who tried out, and we were able to run a JV and varsity. And then this year, in our third year, we had about 40 athletes try out. And again, we ran a JV and varsity program.
So talk about the process of recruiting players and how you think, or what do you think you did successfully to initially get a group of guys, but then expand it almost double or over double the amount of players from the first year?
I would say the recruiting process, the coaching staff gets 0 credit. It was definitely the players. So that first year was our best at word of mouth. We had one junior athlete whose older sister was a player of mine for a couple of years, and also a player named Logan Shuttleworth. So her younger brother, Ethan, was around and available, and he tried out. And then with him, we had 2 transfer students from Pennsylvania who each had a year experience of playing at their respective high schools back home. So that helped as well. From there, the core group of roughly 5 or 6 returners from year 1 to 2 did an outstanding job of talking the sport up and bringing new athletes into our gym. And then we had a lot of growth skill-wise from year 1 to 2. And we had more people attend matches and see our game be played. And I think that definitely helped us as year 3 began with more athletes trying out again. But the credit fully falls onto the returning athletes each year for recruiting more.
All right, so guys, talk about anything that you did to help recruit some players to the team.
Well, this was my second year playing volleyball, and like Coach said, the athletes that I played in Pennsylvania, they were the ones who recruited me. And then when I came out last year, I instantly fell in love with the sport. So this off season, I kind of dedicated myself to getting a whole bunch of friends together and, just, like Coach said, recruiting and then spreading the word about the sport. And really saw such a huge turnout for this year, which is what we were looking for.
I got introduced to the sport by Ethan Shuttleworth. He played soccer. He showed me the sport, and I tried out. And like Dylan was saying, it's a great sport, and I loved it. So then this year, I invited some of the soccer kids to come try out as well.
And you're a good soccer player too, by the way. I know you're an all-state player, so I'll ask a couple soccer questions that can tie into volleyball here in just a moment. And then Talan, how about you?
I was introduced to it by Sal Aranzio. He was on the team my freshman year back in 2021. It was the first year of the team, so I didn't really understand what was happening. But then recruiting some other players who are now on our team now by bringing them out to our winter tryouts, I feel like was a good kind of investment for our team.
So when you say you didn't really understand what was going on, is it just like you weren't really familiar with the game and the rules, something like that?
Yeah.
When do you think the lights turned on in your head there, and all of a sudden you figured out what was happening?
It was probably midway through my freshman season that the game, in the rules, started finally clicking.
So, do you play any other sports, Talon?
Not right now. My freshman year, I did play soccer and I wrestled too.
Okay. So, what about this sport did you find challenging or confusing at first?
This way, you first, then you.
Probably just the rules, the amount of rules that there are, like not touching the net when you're going up to swing or block, and doubles. It was just confusing for me at first, but then I finally got used to it.
Niko.
Yeah, like Talan was saying, it's more the rules because when you play back row, you can't be past the line when you do certain things. So it's very confusing, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy.
And for me, the most challenging thing was probably it was the little things like your fundamentals, your footwork, just every single little thing you have to do technique wise. So I was just like learning that and just doing it over and over again was probably the most challenging. But after probably a season worth of practices, it finally like started to make sense to me more.
You know, Marshall, it's something I talk about with some of the newer coaches who are starting their programs. The patience those first 3 weeks of tryouts are pretty vital because you're dealing with athletes who have an elementary education, in essence, of the sport where they know nothing at all, but they have the physical prowess of high school boys. So it's a really unique combination where they can do certain physical things way better than any new kid that we've, probably coached to this point, but they don't understand how to do things correctly in regards to the rules. So, it's that first week, you really, at least we do in our gym, don't overemphasize the rules. We give them a lot of freedom. We do some loose play. And then as we kind of finalize teams, we break things down a little more detail oriented, and we kind of bore them at times, and we warn them that it's not going to be the most fun or exhilarating practices at some points, but that if we can get those base understandings within that first 2 weeks, it's going to set us up for a lot more success, the rest of the season.
So you were a volleyball player yourself there, Coach.
Yes, sir.
And you played in state and for whom?
So I graduated from Salesianum in 2011. So I started playing that for Sally's that spring of 08, but I started playing travel club that fall, so 2007.
And in what position did you play with them?
We ran a 6-2, so I set and hit right side when I was at Sally's.
All right. So you're able to impart your wisdom in a couple different positions there to your players.
I don't know if I call it wisdom, but I try to impart some things for sure.
So the season was very exciting for you guys. You started the season 6-0 and then ran into Salesianum there and dropped 3 sets, although they were all close. And then after you only dropped 2 sets up to that point in your first 6 matches. One to Smyrna, who was tough. Conrad, usually tough in the boys. And then a close match with Sally's, who didn't drop a set all year until the semifinals of the state tournament. And then you had a tough match against Delaware Military Academy, and then you ran the table too until you came up against the Wilmington Charter School again in the semifinals, and then swept Sally's in that championship match. I'll go where you want to take me there as far as the conversation. You want to talk about the regular season? You want to talk, because you played 3 of the 4 teams you played in the tournament. You played in the regular season, minus Newark Charter. But those semifinal and final games were definitely tough for you. I'll take the conversation anywhere you want to go from that point.
Marshall, I'll go first on it and give it to the boys. We view our season as a ladder, and we take each day as one step. We really try and hone that in as a coaching staff for them to focus on a single day ahead of us. If they look ahead to a match, it's like looking ahead on your ladder 2 or 3 steps. If you miss that step in front of you, you're going to fall off your ladder. Sometimes you do fall, but then how do you respond? How do you get back up? And our second priority in practices is always just getting 1% better every day. There's a litany of different ways to get better and a ton of different skill sets to get better. And each individual person has an opportunity to impact that. So if we set our standard at 1% better every day, by the time the season rolls around towards the end, we're going to reach these goals and reach these milestones, reach these destinations that people want to be at. And that's something that we really try to get in their brains early on. It sometimes is easier because they're so new to the sport, they don't know, and they'll buy into that. Sometimes it's harder also to keep them invested in that because it is still so new to them. But in regards to how the season played out, our out-of-division games, the coaching staff and I talked, we want to challenge ourselves and play some of the tougher teams in the state. I'm not worried about quote-unquote easy wins against maybe a lesser opponent, but I'd gladly take a loss against a quality opponent to learn more about ourselves. So I felt good about how our regular season went and leading into the tournament. Had some good feelings too. Dylan, what you got?
So, like Coach said, we took it one game at a time, but I feel like really the turning point during our season, it's extremely overlooked, was our out-of-state tournament in Kennett. It doesn't show up with score on there, but that tournament itself was, I think, more vital to our team than anything. We saw some really good teams there. We got our butt whooped by some good teams too, and I feel like us losing and us seeing what those teams can do, it really opened our eyes and gave us what we needed to push through the rest of the season and really try and shoot for that title. And after that we lost one game to Sally's, but we knew what we could do and we knew how to push ourselves to get to where we saw we could get, and like that tournament itself was huge for us.
Niko?
Yeah, I think the Kennett was definitely a great experience for us. It taught us taught us what we need to do and what we need to fix. It really helped us out with our season, and we had a great end of the season and great start into the tournament.
Like Coach Coupe said, at each practice we decided that we wanted to get 1% better each day, and it was kind of like a ladder for each game that we had to play. I feel like when we played Sally's in the middle of the season, we knew how we could play and how they could play. And when we played them, we knew that was the best that they could play. And we just needed to get better 1% each day. And we evolved our middles, we evolved our outsides and our opposites and our defense, and it just ended up working out for us in the tournament.
Listen to you talking about all the ins and outs of volleyball that you didn't even understand just 2.5 years ago. Look at you. Yeah. Well, it's fantastic. So let me ask this question about 1%. The season's kind of short. It's only 50, 60 days long. Are you starting from a 40% and then adding 1% to that to get to 100? Or
every day you got to pick something and get that and find it. Even I still play actively on the beach and sometimes indoors, and it's I'm obviously past my athletic prime with these guys, but I still try and find one thing to get better at the next time I hit the court or hit the sand, because if I just keep focusing on that something to improve upon, my game's gonna never stop growing, and you're never at your best. There's always something more to get better at for tomorrow.
Yeah, you're a good coach, man. I've seen you in action. I don't really get a lot of chance to talk to you, but you are a good coach. I see you motivate and lead these guys, and it doesn't surprise me that you're all sitting here and carrying around a trophy. Speaking of which, what did you do with the trophy? Did you guys do like a Stanley Cup kind of thing? Everybody get to take it home for a day or anything like that?
No, sir. That trophy is with me. That is with me. I do not trust.
Oh, so you're taking it around. You're taking it around all over the state. I see how
we
it's going.
We have our team banquet tomorrow night, and then the trophy will be returned back to school. But I did not trust these hooligans with the trophy. No way, Jose. That is precious cargo from now on.
All right. So, guys, let me ask this question: how did the final point end? Talk about the very final point. You all knew you were championship. What happened on that play?
Oh my gosh. So actually the point before, I got subbed out for one of our sophomores, and it was the 24th point. And he's been serving for me all season, and I always say something to him when he goes in. I look at him, I point to his chest, I say, "Kieran, end this thing right now." And he's like, "Oh, I got you. And then he tosses the ball up, and he has a service error into the net. I'm like, oh my gosh. He's just delaying the inevitable. And then right after, they had a service error, and I was on the bench watching it, and our whole team rushes on the court. It was an awesome moment. Super dope.
So, Dylan, who was the first person you high-fived, hugged, or said something to when you knew you were champions?
Well, I think my buddy, Mason Mendez, he's also on varsity. He was sitting right next to me on the bench. And then their serve goes into the net, and then I look at him, I give him a big hug, but then I see our whole student section flood the court, and I mean, I couldn't wait any longer. I rushed right into them. I can't remember who was the first in that huge group of people, but there was a lot.
How about you, Niko?
Yeah, as soon as that point ended, I just ran right into the crowd. And it was awesome. Can't remember who I hugged first.
Talan?
I think I was the furthest away from the crowd as far as when the point ended, because I had to start at the net, and then I see him hit it into the net, and I just turn around, and I think I was one of the first people into the pile. Like it was the fastest I think I've ever run, and I just get picked up by a bunch of people, and it was just an amazing feeling. It was so awesome.
Yeah, it's a great moment, isn't it? And Coupe, how about you? What was the first thing you said, first person you hugged, high-fived or whatever?
I stood there trying to figure out what to do with my own self, my own thoughts. And one of our assistant coaches, George, kind of bear hugged me from behind. And then one of our assistants, who is my mother, was the first person I hugged. She came up to me, and we had a pretty cool embrace that I'm very fortunate to share with her.
That's an awesome moment for sure. So, guys, tell me what one or two things real quick that you have learned from your coach over your time as a Viking volleyball player there. It could be something game related that you applied and it helped your game, or maybe it was just something emotional, intellectual that has kind of helped you out, maybe see the light, maybe made you a better person.
To start off with me, so this was my first year setting, and knowing that my coach has been setting his entire time playing volleyball, he really helped me out, like improving my game, starting from day one up to the championship. He like really helped me focus on setting my feet each time and like spreading the ball out well. And I think like just not to get into my own head each game.
Yeah, for me, this was my first year playing libero. I didn't know a single thing about playing back row, and he taught me everything I needed to know, the position I need to be in, where to go, and read blocks pretty well, and helped me learn like losing is always a chance to learn.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, this being my second year playing the sport, I pretty much needed to learn every single thing that was needed to like about the sport. So I can't name just two things that coach taught me, because I mean, obviously it was a lot. But I mean, one of the most important things, not technique wise, was like the importance of leadership and how much a team like values someone who can fire them up when they're down, or keep them alive when they can't keep moving. So I think that was something I kind of rolled on all season, trying to keep our guys alive at times when they need it the most.
It's definitely more important than the casual observer would kind of figure out there. So, Dylan, take a look at Niko there and tell me something interesting, funny, or positive about him.
Well, Niko, last year, he didn't play like – he played defense, but I mean, not like this year whatsoever. And then, I mean, he stepped into a brand new role at libero, and he came out as an all-stater. And I mean, he really did his thing this year, and it's a defensive core that we needed. And going into the season, I didn't know what our defense was going to look like, losing a lot of seniors who was really our back row at times. And then Niko came in, stepped in, and took over that role. It's exactly what we needed for our team this year.
And Niko, before I have you do the same thing for Talan there, as a soccer player, how many times did you successfully kick the ball over the net as a volleyball player?
I
I don't think I did at all. Anytime this year.
There is one school out there, it's Aspire Academy. I don't know how many times I actually saw them. They had, I guess the whole team is their soccer team, right? And I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but I think they were probably better with their feet as volleyball players there. But let me pass by that little comment there. Niko, take a look at Talan and say something interesting, funny, or positive about him.
We needed a setter this year, and we had two people that would have been setting, but Talan took it over, and he did really great. We needed him up there. He took command of that front line, and he had beautiful sets all season long.
And Talan, something about Dylan there. Something interesting, funny, positive, whatever you want.
I can only remember one real moment about Dylan is when he got his car stuck in the mud at my house trying to drop me off. He's a really interesting person. He's been there to help me out since day one if I need a ride to winter practices or anything. But yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, it wasn't fun. I got my car stuck in the mud, and his dad had to come hook me out of the mud. That was not a fun experience at all.
So the volleyball game is played with at least 6 players on a court, and you have some substitutions and all that. And you guys, good as you all 3 are, couldn't have done it all by yourself. Name some of the other players that helped you win this championship this year.
Okay, this one for a second. I mean, you said it really well, Marshall. And one thing to kind of set up unique about our program the last 2 years, we don't set varsity and JV teams throughout the season. We do wait until the actual tournament for that. So in season, we practice as one group, one collective. So 24 kids pretty much every day are practicing together. And do separate at some points on certain scrimmage situations where, newer kids aren't physically prepared or mentally prepared yet to go against, senior players like this who have 2-3 years experience. So we decide teams for each match at the conclusion of the practice before the match.
Okay.
We tell them, rattle them off, U12 or varsity, U12 or JV, or U13, U11. And then we try, from a coaching standpoint, if someone has that day is theirs and they really shine, we bring them up to varsity. It could be a kid who sees the court for 13 JV matches, but on that 14th match, we bring him up to varsity. And he may not see the court at all, and that's okay. But we reward them with their practice. And the goal of that was really to put emphasis on how important practices are. If you go through it, you coast through it, then you might just be on JV every day. But if you want the opportunity, it's going to be presented to you. We try and word to the kids. We treat them all fairly, but not equally. So they will have the opportunity to present themselves in practice and to show off why they do or don't deserve to be on varsity. And through that, I think we've got some great competition. Within the varsity practices, those last 2 weeks of tournament time, everyone had their day. We brought up one senior first-year player in Declan Morrissey, and this is his younger brother, Kieran's down his second year playing for us, but this is Declan's first year. And Declan got that 1% better, almost 5% better every day within this last 2 weeks of that tournament. That competition really brought the best out of him. Dylan already mentioned his buddy, Mason Mendez. He's another new player to the sport. He's a soccer player as well in the fall with Niko, but had a really intense desire to improve, and he asked a lot of intelligent questions, especially for a newer athlete. Look at players like Bryce Patterson, Ty Small, Ryan Diller, Blake Katz. It's a squad full of dudes who want to compete. No one's happy they're not getting the playing time. They all want that time, and that's all I ask of them. Compete every day, bust your you-know-whats every day, and your time may come and it may not. But regardless, you have to give it that intensity and that fire every day of practice. And all 14 of those dudes those last 2 weeks really gave it to us.
That's awesome. I like that line there. Treat everybody fairly but not equally. Yeah, it's a good way to approach that with a team of aspiring athletes. And at this level, too, there's always a marked improvement from day one to the end of the season as well. It's always very obvious for especially kids and teams that are trying real hard. So fill in any blanks there for me that I might have left out. Guys, you can say a parting word or two to anybody you want or about anything. Coach, same with you. I just want to make sure that this has been a complete conversation with the reigning state champions here in Delaware.
Sound good?
I think we really covered a lot of the stuff about our season. Just how hard we've worked from the guys who have never played the sport in their lives, coming out and giving it their all every practice, and more about practicing as a family rather than a team. I think our bond and connection that we all have with each other means more than anything. Because, I mean, I played basketball last year, my junior year, and then going from a basketball season that was pretty rough to a volleyball season where I felt like every single one of my teammates was my brother. It was a huge change, and I feel like that just connection that we all had was huge, and part of the reason why we're all state champions today.
Well said. Well said.
For me, it's definitely like Dylan said. We're all a family at the end of the day. We push each other very hard at practices, and we get that 1% better every day.
For me, I think that we're more than just a team. We hang out with each other outside school. We're not just there to practice each day. We're there to put in our all, and that took us to where we are now.
Yeah, I find that in successful. I find that in successful programs that there's like a common thread there where everybody believes that they're a family more so than a team. There.
My one final point would be, I don't think we can understate how much the community support carried us the last 5 days of our tournament. With the match first charter here, it was really the first time in the 8 years I've coached here where we've had a sizable crowd that actually made, and Dylan's now new favorite word, a palpable impact, where they lifted us and they pushed us through. And I think our kids really fed off of the support from the crowd that night versus charter. And then, I just was exchanging messages with Tommy Neubauer of DIAA, and he thinks ticket sales are anywhere in like the 675 range. And of that 675, I would confidently say it felt like probably 500 of that were for Cape. And the fact that not only our students, parents of our players, but parents of other students who don't play volleyball, neighbors with kids who don't go to school at all, made that trip up, and then were so vocally active with us was a much added addition to our team. That was that 15th person that we didn't know we were going to have, but that made a huge impact. And I am extremely thankful to everyone who invested their time to support this team.
Yeah, it's a great sports community down there, that's for sure. They definitely are supportive of the high school sports there and the clubs as well. No doubt about that. Well, gentlemen, I want to congratulate you once again on your state championship, a historical victory for the state and also for your school. I want to wish you the best of luck in all that you do. I guess, Talan, I'll see you next year, right? You're going to play next year?
Yep.
Yes.
Better.
Yes.
Right? You got a trophy to defend now.
He does.
Right? Mr. Coupe, I appreciate the time that you took to arrange this for me. It was a pleasure to get to talk to you for this extended period of time. You're a great guy, obviously a great coach, and I will see you in the girls' season for sure.
Sure.
All right, gentlemen, wave goodbye to our growing fan base here at Delaware Sports and My Sports Reports. Just wave goodbye there, dudes. All right, I'm going to hit end meeting for all. Enjoy your summer. You're in one of the best towns in the state to enjoy a summer, that's for sure.
Yes, sir.
All right, take care. Have a great day.
See you, Marshall.
See ya.
So, as you can tell by the lingering text at the bottom corner of the screen there, that was the Cape Henlopen boys volleyball team, the state champions, the original state champions, the inaugural state champions in boys volleyball here. Exciting year for them and for the community. Good guys. They're all good guys. It's all fun to watch. The boys volleyball game is getting much better every year. And, watch the girls volleyball too. I'm a big fan of that myself. What else? Special thanks go out to my wonderful, beautiful wife, Dawnie M., my friends Joey B. and Tommy K., supporters of the show from day one. You can support the show simply by subscribing on whatever video platform you find these videos. Occasionally, press the play button, though, so you can find out more about the athletes and the personalities behind the names in the box scores. And if you'd be so kind as to share these videos as well, and if you're on the Facebook page, finding here, please like that page. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am Marshal Manlove, and now from the home studio in Middletown, Delaware, I am gone. Yeah, have a great day.